The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched far across the sky. It was made of crystal that shined like stars. Inside this massive building, creatures from 473 different worlds gathered to make decisions together. Some looked like clouds of gas. Others were giants made of rock. They all had their own special places to sit in the hall, but one seat was empty. It had been empty for exactly 1 year. The humans had been invited to join the council. They had passed every test. Their technology was good enough. Their culture was mature enough. They showed no signs of being violent or dangerous. When Ambassador Kelvin Brooks arrived, everyone expected him to accept the great honor. He gave a wonderful speech about how happy Earth was to meet everyone. Then he said something nobody expected. "We thank you for this honor, but Earth must say no to the council seat right now. We have problems at home that need all our attention." The council members were confused. Species waited hundreds of years for an invitation like this. Some had fought wars just to get a seat at this table, yet the humans just walked away from it. High Chancellor Vexthar was the leader of the council. He had served for 300 years. He had never seen anything like this before. The humans were polite. They traded with other species. They followed all the rules, but they kept their home system locked up tight like a military fortress. "Maybe they just like to be alone," said Counselor Miravel. Her body was made of crystal and bent light into rainbows. "People who like to be alone do not build the kind of fleet we saw at their border," Vexthar replied with worry in his voice. "Our scans found at least 300 big warships. For a species that only learned to travel faster than light 100 years ago, that is strange." The council tried to investigate quietly. They sent 3 survey ships to watch the human colonies from far away. All 3 ships vanished. No wreckage, no distress calls, nothing. When the council complained, the human diplomats were sorry but firm. "The Sol system and all human territory are under quarantine," explained Ambassador Katie Pierce, who took over after Brooks. "Any ship that enters without permission will be destroyed. We strongly suggest all council ships stay outside our borders." "Quarantine against what?" Vexthar demanded to know. Pierce smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. "That is our business, not yours." Now 1 full year later, that empty seat bothered Vexthar every single day. The humans paid their fees. They came to ceremonies. They were always polite, but they would not join, would not explain, and would not let anyone pass their borders. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the command deck of the Earth Defense Force ship Valiant. He watched another council spy ship try to sneak past their defensive line. It was disguised as a cargo hauler, but human sensors spotted the military scanning equipment in seconds. "Intercept course ready, sir," reported Lieutenant Sophie Chen from her station. "Contact them first," Morrison ordered. "Let us be nice about it," the alien ship responded quickly. Its captain made up a story about navigation errors and apologized many times. Morrison let them leave, but he made sure they got a good look at the 16 destroyer ships that appeared to escort them out. "They keep trying," noted Commander Greg Palmer, who served as Morrison's second in command. "They are scared," Morrison corrected him. "They have built a perfect ordered galaxy. We are something they do not understand. It drives them crazy not knowing what we are hiding." Palmer glanced at the sealed orders on Morrison's command tablet. The classification level was the highest that Earth had. "Do you think we will ever tell them, sir?" Morrison's face went dark. "If we tell them, Palmer, they will panic. If they panic, they will do something stupid. Then we will have to show them exactly why Earth's seat stays empty." He turned back to the viewing screen where the stars looked peaceful and calm. They had no idea about the storm waiting just beyond human borders. "Keep the perimeter secure," Morrison said quietly. "Nobody gets in. Nobody gets out. Not until we are ready." Behind them, deeper in the solar system, massive construction yards worked day and night. New ships were being built, ships bigger and more powerful than anything the Council had ever imagined. These ships were crewed by men and women who understood exactly what waited in the dark spaces between stars. Humanity had found something out there during their first desperate push into deep space. Something that made them realize how unprepared the peaceful galactic community really was for true danger. The Council thought the galaxy was safe. They thought violence was rare. They thought their peaceful civilization would last forever. They were wrong about all of it. 20 years ago, a human colony ship called Pioneer had gone exploring beyond the known borders. They found the ruins of an ancient empire called the Krell. 40 star systems all destroyed. Every planet burned clean of life. No survivors, no records of what killed them. Then the Pioneer found out what happened. They discovered the truth too late to save themselves. Something came from the darkness beyond the galaxy. Something that consumed entire civilizations and left nothing behind. The Krell called them the Shroud. The Pioneer tried to run. They failed. When the rescue fleet arrived, they found the colony ship torn apart. 2,000 people dead. Only one survivor remained to tell the tale. That survivor's story changed everything for humanity. Earth's leaders made a choice. They would not tell the Council about the Shroud. They would not cause panic across hundreds of worlds. Instead, they would build a fleet in secret. They would prepare for war, and when the Shroud came back, humanity would be ready to stop them before they reached anyone else. So Earth's seat stayed empty, not because humans were proud or rude, but because they had seen the truth about the universe. They knew that beyond the light of civilization, monsters waited in the dark. The Council did not know this yet. They still believed in eternal peace. Humanity knew better. They had learned that peace only existed because someone was willing to fight for it. So they built their ships and trained their soldiers and watched the darkness. They would keep the galaxy safe even if it meant being misunderstood. The empty seat was not an insult. It was a sacrifice, and someday the Council would understand why. Captain Daniel Wright pressed his hand against the cold window of the deep space station. He watched the sensors paint pictures of things moving in the void. The station was called Outpost Cerberus. It floated 3 light years beyond Earth's official borders, hidden among the debris of an old dead star. Contact at bearing 270, about 40 light minutes away, reported Ensign Lucas Grant. His voice was tight with tension. Everyone who worked this far from home felt that tension all the time. Wright felt his jaw clench. What kind? Definitely Shroud class, Grant confirmed. Moving parallel to the Andromeda Drift, just like last week. It is watching. It is waiting. The captain moved to the holographic display. A massive shape drifted through space, barely visible to their sensors. It was maybe 2 kilometers long. It looked organic, like it was alive. It was completely unlike anything in the Council's databases. The Council had never seen the Shroud before. They had been lucky. Humanity had not been lucky at all. 23 years ago, the colony ship Pioneer pushed beyond the boundaries of human space. Captain Lisa Chen and her crew of 2,000 people were 6 months from establishing humanity's farthest settlement. Then they found the first victim. The Krell Empire had once controlled 40 star systems. Their ruins stretched across 100 light years. Magnificent cities turned to ash and glass. Every planet was scrubbed clean of life. No survivors anywhere. No records of what destroyed them. The Krell had simply vanished from the galaxy 300 years ago. Most people thought they destroyed themselves by expanding too fast. The Pioneer discovered what really happened. Wright had read Chen's final logs many times. He could recite them from memory. Her voice started excited about the archaeological discovery, but it slowly changed to terror as her science team figured out the truth. They came from dark space, Chen had reported. Her transmission was broken and hard to hear. From beyond the edge of the galaxy, the Krell called them the Shroud. They do not conquer. They consume. Every living thing, every resource, every trace that a civilization existed. They move through star systems like locusts. Then they go back to the void to sleep. The Krell's mistake was being too loud. They broadcast too much. They expanded too quickly. They became a target. The Pioneer tried to retreat, but the Shroud had already noticed them. Wright had been a lieutenant on the rescue fleet that arrived 14 weeks too late. They found the Pioneer gutted. Its hull was breached in 1,000 places by something that left organic slime on the metal. The crew had fought hard. Scorch marks and improvised barricades told that story, but in the end they were just food for the Shroud. Only one person survived. Commander Peter Hayes was the Pioneer's first officer. He had sealed himself in a reinforced laboratory with enough supplies to last until rescue came. He was nearly insane when they found him. He was surrounded by every piece of data he had managed to collect about the Shroud. They are still out there, Hayes had whispered with haunted eyes, watching the edge of the galaxy. The Council has no idea. All their peaceful species, their grand civilization, they only exist because they have not drawn the Shroud's attention yet. But we did. We found them, and now they know we exist. Earth's leadership faced an impossible choice. Should they warn the Council and cause panic across the entire galaxy? That panic might only make humanity a bigger target. Or should they stay silent and prepare for what was coming? Admiral Claire Morrison made the final decision. She was Jake Morrison's predecessor. We stay quiet. We build ships. We prepare. And when they come, we make sure we can stop them before they reach anyone else. That had been 20 years ago. 20 years of building a secret military fleet. 20 years of hiding the truth behind diplomatic double talk and careful evasion. Earth had transformed from a peaceful emerging species into a fortress system. Every resource, every scientific advance, every new technology went toward one purpose, building a fleet capable of fighting the Shroud. "Sir, the contact is changing course," Grant reported, pulling right back to the present. "It is moving away back toward dark space." "Log it and send the report to Fleet Command," Wright ordered. "Use standard encryption." As Grant worked, Wright pulled up the tactical display showing humanity's defensive perimeter. 47 hidden monitoring stations like Cerberus. 600 military vessels, from small frigates to massive dreadnoughts. 15,000 automated weapon platforms. Enough firepower to destroy the Council fleet 3 times over. And still, Wright wondered if it would be enough. "Message sent, sir," Grant confirmed. Wright nodded, his eyes distant. Somewhere in the Sol system, in sealed briefing rooms, Earth's leaders faced the same question every single day. How long could they keep this secret? How long before the Council forced the issue? What would happen when humanity finally had to explain why they spent 2 decades building an army against an enemy the galaxy thought was just a myth? The Shroud moved through the darkness beyond his window, patient and eternal. It had destroyed the Krell civilization. It had nearly taken the Pioneer. And someday, inevitably, it would return in force. Earth kept building ships. Earth kept training soldiers. Earth kept watching the darkness. Because humanity had learned a terrible truth about the universe. The galaxy was not as peaceful as everyone believed. There were predators out there that did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They only consumed. The Council lived in the light, safe and comfortable. They made laws about proportional response and diplomatic solutions. They believed civilization had evolved past violence. But they were only safe because those predators were sleeping. Humanity knew the predators would wake up eventually. And when that happened, Earth would be ready. They had to be ready. Because if humanity failed, the entire Council would fall. 473 species would be consumed by something they did not even know existed. So Earth's seat remained empty. A small price to pay for protecting those too innocent to understand the predators lurking in the deep. Humanity stood watch in the darkness while the Council enjoyed their peace. It was a lonely job, a thankless job, but someone had to do it. And humans had always been good at doing the hard jobs that nobody else wanted. They had learned that lesson long before they reached the stars. Now they would use that lesson to protect a galaxy that did not even know it needed protecting. The Shroud drifted in the void, and humanity watched them drift, waiting, preparing, ready to become the shield that would stand between the light and the darkness. High Chancellor Vexthar had ruled the Galactic Council for 2.5 centuries. He had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, those instincts told him something was catastrophically wrong with the human situation. "Show me the data again," he commanded. His 4 eyes focused on the holographic display in his private chambers. Counselor Trenvar was the Council's intelligence director. He manipulated the projection with his long fingers. 3 merchant vessels have disappeared in the past month, all in the same region of space. The last known coordinates place them about 4 light-years from human territory. Pirates? Vexthar suggested, though he already knew the answer. No debris, no ransom demands, no evidence of weapons fire. They simply stopped transmitting. Trenvar highlighted a section of space that looked completely empty. The humans call this area a navigation hazard. They claim there is stellar instability, but our astronomical surveys show nothing unusual there. Vexthar studied the map. His mind worked through the implications. And the Council observers? The team I sent to investigate has missed their last 2 check-ins. Trenvar's confidence wavered. "High Chancellor, I believe the humans are hiding something significant, something that poses a potential threat to Council security." Before Vexithar could respond, his priority communication channel activated. The face of Ambassador Katie Pierce appeared. Her expression was professionally neutral, but her eyes were hard. "High Chancellor, we need to speak immediately. In person. It concerns your missing observers." 2 hours later, Vexthar found himself in a secure conference room on a human diplomatic vessel. The technology around him was civilian in appearance, but his sensors insisted it was military grade. Pierce sat across from him, flanked by 2 individuals in dark uniforms with no insignia. "Your observers are alive and unharmed," Pierce began without any pleasantries. "They are currently being held at a human military facility for their own protection." Vexthar felt his diplomatic composure crack. "You dare detain council representatives?" "We dared to save their lives," interrupted the woman to Pierce's left. She was older with gray hair pulled back severely. Her bearing screamed military authority. "I am Admiral Rachel Stone, commander of Earth's Deep Space Defense. Your observers stumbled into a quarantine zone. Another few hours and they would have encountered something far less friendly than my patrol ships." "Quarantine against what?" Vexthar demanded. "You have avoided this question for over a year. The Council demands answers." "The Council is about to get exactly what it demands," Pierce cut him off. "We are bringing you to Earth. You will be briefed on the situation in full. Then you will understand why we have been so insistent on maintaining our borders." The journey to Earth took 3 days. During that time, Vexthar was denied all communication with the Council. It was a diplomatic catastrophe, but the humans seemed unconcerned with protocol. Admiral Stone spent the time providing what she called necessary context. She showed him presentations on human military history that left Vexthar deeply unsettled. "You have fought wars among yourselves for your entire recorded history," he observed after viewing footage of human conflicts. "This is considered aberrant behavior by Council standards." "It made us very good at building weapons and breaking things," Stone replied bluntly. "Skills that proved useful when we discovered we were not alone in the universe." When they finally reached Earth, Vexthar was taken directly to what the humans called the Strategic Command Center. It was buried deep beneath the North American continent. The scale of the facility was staggering. It was clearly designed to coordinate military operations across multiple star systems. General Marcus Webb met them in a briefing room dominated by a massive holographic display. He was a broad-shouldered man with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "High Chancellor Vexthar," Webb greeted him formally. "Thank you for your patience. What you are about to see is classified at the highest level of human security. 23 individuals galaxy-wide know the complete picture. You are about to become number 24. Webb activated the display. Vexthar watched in growing horror as the story of the Pioneer unfolded before him. The Krell ruins, the fragmented records, the Shroud attack, Commander Hayes' rescue, 20 years of tracking, monitoring, and preparing for an enemy that existed beyond the Council's awareness. "This is impossible," Vexthar whispered, as footage played of a Shroud organism consuming a derelict ship. "The Krell extinction happened 3 centuries ago. Our surveys found nothing." "Your surveys found exactly what the Shroud wanted you to find," Webb interrupted. "Ruins with no evidence of the attackers. The Shroud are methodical. They eliminate all traces of their existence. Your own protocols worked against you. You classified the Krell disappearance as an internal collapse and moved on." Stone stepped forward, her expression grim. "The Shroud operate on cycles that span centuries. They emerge from dark space, consume a target, then retreat to hibernate. The Krell had the misfortune of drawing their attention during an active phase. They were destroyed before they could warn anyone." "And humanity?" Vexthar asked, though he already feared the answer. "We stuck our nose into their territory during a dormant phase," Webb said. "We got lucky. We found the evidence, put the pieces together, and retreated before triggering a full response. But they know we exist now. According to every pattern we have identified, their next active cycle begins within 5 to 10 years. Vexthar felt his world tilting. "The Council must be informed immediately. We need to prepare defensive positions." "With what?" Stone's voice cracked like a whip. "High Chancellor, the Council fleet was designed to police trade disputes and deter pirates. Your vessels carry weapons meant to disable, not destroy. You have protocols that require warning shots and proportional response. The Shroud do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They do not stop until everything is dead." Webb pulled up a tactical comparison. Vexthar felt his blood chill. The Council's combined military might, accumulated over 10,000 years of peace, was formidable. But it was designed for law enforcement, not war. The human fleet, built in secret over just 2 decades, was smaller in numbers, but devastatingly more lethal. We have been preparing for a war the Council has never had to fight, Webb said quietly. Every ship we build, every weapon we design, every soldier we train, all focused on stopping the Shroud before they reach the Council's worlds. That is why Earth's seat stays empty. We cannot afford to be bound by Council protocols when humanity is the only thing standing between your civilization and extinction. Vexithar stared at the tactical displays. He looked at the massive fleet humanity had constructed in secret. He saw the evidence of an enemy that had existed just beyond perception for centuries. His carefully ordered understanding of the galaxy crumbled around him. Why not simply tell us? He asked, his voice was hollow. Why the secrecy? Admiral Stone met his eyes with an expression of infinite weariness. Because if we told you, High Chancellor, the Council would panic. Species would arm themselves chaotically. Ancient rivalries would resurface. All that noise, all that activity, would draw the Shroud's attention before anyone was ready to fight them. We chose to bear this burden alone, to become the galaxy's shield, even if it meant being seen as paranoid isolationists. Webb leaned forward. His hands were clasped on the table. But now you know, and you have a choice to make. Return to the Council and trigger the chaos we have been trying to prevent, or work with us quietly to prepare for what is coming. Because ready or not, High Chancellor, the Shroud are waking up. When they come, humanity will stand in their path. The only question is whether we will stand alone. The emergency session of the Galactic Council happened in absolute secrecy. Only the leaders of the 12 founding species attended. High Chancellor Vexthar stood before them in a secured chamber. The room was protected by technology that even he did not fully understand. Ironically, the humans had provided it. What you are about to hear will fundamentally challenge everything we believe about galactic security, Vexthar began. His voice was steady despite the turmoil in his mind. I have spent the past week reviewing evidence that humans have been gathering for 2 decades. I have seen their classified intelligence. I have spoken with their military leaders. I have reached a conclusion that terrifies me. Humanity has been protecting us from a threat we never knew existed. Over the next 3 hours, he presented everything. The Pioneer logs, the Shroud biology reports, tactical analyses of the Krell extinction, the disturbing reality that the humans had built a war machine specifically to fight an enemy the Council thought was myth. Councillor Prime Jackson of the Viridian Assembly spoke first. His luminous form pulsed with agitation. This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe that a single human vessel stumbled upon evidence that our extensive survey network missed? I expect you to believe the sensor logs, Vexthar replied. He projected the data into the air, and the biological samples that Commander Hayes recovered, and the fact that 3 of our vessels have disappeared investigating the same region where the Shroud have been observed. Humans could have fabricated this entire scenario, suggested High Arbiter Nelvox, her segmented body coiled with suspicion. An elaborate deception to justify their military buildup. Admiral Stone was attending via secure link from Earth. She responded with barely contained frustration. To what purpose? We could have joined your council, enjoyed all the benefits of membership and built our fleet in plain sight by citing security concerns. Instead, we isolated ourselves, damaged our diplomatic standing, and made ourselves objects of suspicion. Does that sound like a conspiracy to you? General Webb appeared beside Stone on the projection. High Arbiter, I understand your skepticism. In your position, I would feel the same. So let me make this simple. We are offering to share everything. Our intelligence network, our tactical assessments, our weapons technology. If we are lying, then all we have accomplished is giving you access to humanity's most classified military secrets. That seems like a poor strategy for deception. The assembled leaders talked among themselves in a dozen languages and communication formats. Vexthar waited. He remembered his own reaction when first confronted with the evidence. Disbelief, then horror, then a grudging respect for humanity's ruthless pragmatism. Finally, Elder Prime Kortsha of the Andraxian Collective spoke. His ancient voice carried the weight of centuries. Assuming this threat is real, what does humanity propose? Webb had clearly been waiting for this question. A joint task force operating under classified protocols. Your brightest strategic minds working with our military planners. We share our research on Shroud biology and tactics. You provide us with resources and technology that can improve our defensive capabilities. We do all of this quietly without triggering system-wide panic. You want our help to build your war machine, Nelvox observed coldly. We want your help to build our war machine, Stone corrected, emphasizing the word "our." High Arbiter, right now humanity's fleet is designed with one purpose: delay the shroud long enough for Council worlds to evacuate. We are your early warning system, your sacrificial buffer, but with Council resources we could build something better, a fleet capable of not just delaying but defeating them. Counselor Mirabelle had been silent until now. She spoke thoughtfully. If we commit to this course, we are accepting that war is inevitable. That peace, which we have maintained for thousands of years, was only possible because we had not yet encountered a true threat. Your peace was real, Vexthar said firmly. The Council achieved something magnificent. A galaxy where hundreds of species cooperate, rather than compete. But that peace existed within boundaries. Beyond those boundaries, in the dark spaces between civilizations, other rules apply. Humanity discovered this the hard way. They are offering us a chance to learn from their experience rather than repeating their mistakes. The debate continued for hours. Various counselors raised objections and concerns, but gradually a consensus formed. The evidence was too compelling. The risk was too catastrophic. Even if there was only a chance that the shroud were real, the Council could not afford to ignore it. Elder Prime Korcha finally called for a vote. The motion passed. 8 in favor, 3 abstaining, 1 opposed. The Council would secretly assist humanity's preparations. But, Korcha added gravely, we require transparency. Human commanders will be embedded within our strategic centers. Council observers will have access to your facilities. We will jointly determine when, if ever, to inform the broader Council membership. Webb nodded acceptance. Agreed, we will begin coordinating within the week. But understand that time is not our ally. Our monitoring stations have detected increased shroud activity over the past 6 months. They are stirring. They are testing boundaries. The dormant period is ending. After the Council leaders disconnected, Vexthar found himself alone with Webb and Stone's projection. You took a significant risk, revealing everything, Vexthar observed. If the Council had rejected your evidence, you would have exposed your capabilities for nothing. Stone smiled grimly. High Chancellor, humanity learned a hard lesson when the Pioneer was lost. We learned that some threats are too big to face alone. We built our fleet in secret because we had to, but fighting the Shroud alone, that was always a suicide mission. We needed allies. We just needed to find the right moment to recruit them. And if the Council had remained skeptical, Vexthar pressed. Webb's expression darkened. Then we would have fought alone anyway. We would have hoped we could bleed the Shroud enough to give your civilization time to wake up. But I'm very glad it did not come to that. As the projection faded, Vexithar stood in the empty chamber. He thought about the massive shift in galactic power that had just occurred. Humanity, the newest and youngest Council species, had effectively become the military vanguard of an entire civilization. Earth's empty seat, which had seemed like stubbornness or arrogance, now appeared as something else entirely. A deliberate statement. A declaration that humanity operated under different rules because they faced different threats. The Council maintained order within the light. But humanity had volunteered to stand guard at the edge of darkness. Vexthar suspected that future historians would mark this day as the true beginning of humanity's integration into galactic society. Not when they were invited to join, but when they chose to protect those who had not yet learned to protect themselves. The question now was whether preparation would prove sufficient. The Shroud were coming. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had spent 20 years building an armada in secret. 3 years passed quickly. The joint operations center that humanity and the Council built together became a model of cooperation. Officers from 20 different species worked side by side. Their initial awkwardness gave way to professional competence. Ships were retrofitted. Weapons were upgraded. Defensive positions were established across 100 light years. But despite all the preparation, nobody truly believed it would happen. Deep down, even the humans hoped they were wrong. They hoped the Shroud would stay dormant for another century. They hoped all this effort would be wasted. Then Outpost Cerberus detected the surge. Hundreds of Shroud contacts emerging from dark space. Not scouts, not small clusters. A full invasion force moving with coordinated purpose. The active cycle had begun. The darkness was waking up, and everything humanity and the Council had built was about to be tested in the most brutal way possible. The warning came exactly 3 years after the Council learned humanity's secret. Captain Daniel Wright stood at his station on Outpost Cerberus and watched the sensors light up with contacts. Not the usual scouts. Not small clusters. Hundreds of signatures emerging from dark space, moving with terrifying coordination. "This is it," Wright transmitted to Fleet Command. His voice was steady despite the ice in his veins. "The active cycle has begun. They are coming through in force." Admiral Jake Morrison received the alert in the Joint Operations Center. The massive facility blended human military efficiency with Council technological sophistication. Around him, officers from 20 different species worked at their stations. Their initial awkwardness was long gone, replaced by grim determination. "Sound general quarters across all fleets," Morrison ordered. "Execute protocol bulwark. Someone wake High Chancellor Vexthar. He will want to see this." The defense network that humanity and the Council had built sprang to life. Human dreadnoughts, their hulls covered with weapons that violated every Council treaty, moved to intercept positions. Council vessels, retrofitted with human weapon systems, formed supporting formations. Automated weapons platforms activated across 100 light years. Every piece had been carefully positioned for this exact moment. In orbit around Earth, General Marcus Webb watched the tactical display. His expression showed someone who had prepared for this moment but never truly believed it would arrive. "Fleet status?" he asked Commander Lisa Grant, who had transferred from Outpost Cerberus for this assignment. "All human battle groups are in position. Council reinforcements are arriving on schedule." Grant's fingers moved across her controls. "Sir, the Shroud formation is larger than our worst-case projections. We are looking at potentially 3,000 contacts, maybe more." They learned to mask their numbers. "They have had 300 years to evolve tactics," Webb observed. "But so have we. Send to all commands. Weapons free upon contact. No warning shots. No attempts at communication. The Shroud do not negotiate." On the flagship Earth Defense Force Indomitable, Captain Nicole Brady watched her crew prepare for battle. Her gunnery officer, Lieutenant Chris Murphy, was barely 25. Too young to remember when Earth's seat was empty. Young enough to have grown up in a society preparing for war. "Weapons systems showing green across the board, Captain," Murphy reported. "All railgun batteries charged. Missile tubes loaded with plasma warheads. Point defense grid active." "Good," Brady acknowledged. Then she spoke over the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. You know what is coming. You have trained for this your entire careers. Remember, we are not just defending Earth. Every world in Council space relies on us holding this line. The Shroud advance ends here. Show them why humanity does not yield." The first contact came at the outer perimeter. Human frigate squadrons faced the Shroud vanguard. These were the fast attack ships, crewed by volunteers who understood they were the tripwire. The early warning that would cost them their lives. Commander Jerry Foster watched his sensors as the Shroud scouts approached. Their organic hulls pulsed with sickly bioluminescence. They looked almost beautiful if you could forget what they did to living beings. "All batteries fire at will," Foster commanded. The frigate squadron opened up with everything they had. Railgun rounds traveling at impossible speeds punched through Shroud vessels. Explosions blossomed in the void. Missiles with plasma warheads turned 3 of the aliens into expanding clouds of superheated gas. But for every Shroud ship destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. They returned fire with biological weapons. Projectiles that ate through armor and spread like cancer. Foster's ship shuddered as one struck their port side. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, his damage control officer reported. "The contamination is spreading." Foster made his decision instantly. "Evacuate those sections and seal them. Set self-destruct on my mark. All personnel to escape pods." He opened a channel to the squadron. "This is Commander Foster. My ship is compromised. We are going out swinging. All ships fall back to secondary line. Make these things pay for every inch." He aimed his dying ship at the largest Shroud cluster and pushed the engines to maximum. The ship accelerated, her remaining weapons blazing. She detonated in a miniature sun that consumed 16 Shroud vessels. It was the first sacrifice of many. The battle raged across 3 days and 40 light years. Human captains used tactics drawn from centuries of warfare. Ambushes, feints, concentration of fire. Council vessels, initially hesitant, learned quickly that mercy had no place against an enemy that gave none. Together they fought with desperation born of defending everything they valued. On the second day, High Chancellor Vexthar stood beside Admiral Morrison in the operations center. He watched the casualty reports climb higher and higher. I understand now, Vexthar said quietly. Why you built this fleet. Why you kept Earth's seat empty. You knew this was coming and you knew we were not ready. Morrison's jaw clenched. We hoped we were wrong, High Chancellor. We hoped the Shroud would stay dormant for another century, but hope is not a strategy. My people believed the galaxy was fundamentally peaceful, Vexthar continued. His eyes stayed on the tactical display where icons representing ships and lives winked out one by one. That violence was an aberration, a phase that civilized species outgrew. Humanity never believed that lie. Now we understand why. On the third day, the Shroud made their final push. They threw everything at the human defensive line. Captain Brady's Indomitable anchored the formation. Her ship was battered but refused to break. Around her, vessels from a dozen species fought side by side, united by necessity. They are concentrating on the center, warned Lieutenant Murphy. They are trying to break through to the inner colonies. Then we hold the center, Brady replied. All ships converge on my position. Overlapping fields of fire. Nothing gets past us. The Shroud came in waves. Their numbers seemed endless. But humanity and their council allies had learned to fight as one coordinated force. When human ships exhausted their ammunition, council vessels covered their withdrawal. When council shields failed, human point defense protected them. Together they built a wall of fire that the Shroud could not cross. And slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. General Webb watched from Earth as the moment came when the Shroud began to falter. Their coordinated attacks became scattered. Their reserves, thrown repeatedly against the human line, had been depleted. The enemy that had destroyed the Krell was learning a harsh lesson. Humanity knew how to fight wars of attrition, and they did not break. All commands, begin counter-offensive, Webb ordered. Push them back into dark space. I want them to understand that if they come for this galaxy again, they will face the same reception. The Shroud retreated in disorder. Human hunter-killer squadrons pursued them and showed no mercy. It was not enough to drive them off. Humanity needed to make the cost of aggression too high to contemplate. Every Shroud vessel destroyed was a message. This galaxy was defended. When the last Shroud contact disappeared from sensors, collective exhaustion fell over the joint fleet. They had lost 93 ships, including 6 council vessels. Over 12,000 people had died defending the line, but the line had held. Admiral Morrison stood before the Joint Council in the aftermath. His uniform was crisp despite 3 days without sleep. The Shroud will return, he said without preamble. Maybe in 50 years, maybe in 500, but they will return. The question before this council is simple. Will you be ready? Vexthar rose from his seat. His aged form straightened with renewed purpose. Admiral Morrison, humanity has earned more than readiness from this council. You have earned partnership. I move that Earth's seat in the council be permanently designated as the position of military command. Let humanity stand watch for all of us, but let them stand with our full support. The vote was unanimous. Later, Captain Nicole Brady stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable. She watched repair crews work on her battered ship. Commander Lisa Grant joined her, 2 warriors taking a moment to simply breathe. Do you think they understand now? Grant asked. Why we kept our distance. Why we could not join until they were ready. Brady watched Earth rotate slowly in the viewport. Beautiful, blue, and utterly uncompromising. I think they understand that peace is not the absence of conflict. Brady said finally, it is the presence of people willing to fight for it. Humanity learned that lesson in blood and fire. Long before we reached the stars, we tried to spare them that education. But sometimes the only teacher is experience. Earth's seat was no longer empty, but the humans who now occupied it came with scars and hard-won wisdom. They had learned to stand watch in the darkness, to face horrors that others could not imagine, to bear the weight of defending those who had not yet learned to defend themselves. The galaxy was safe for now. Humanity would make sure it stayed that way no matter the cost. Because that was what humans did. They saw the darkness, acknowledged it, and then built a wall of fire to keep it at bay. Some seats were earned not through diplomacy, but through sacrifice. Earth's seat had been purchased with blood, vigilance, and unwavering conviction that some things were worth fighting for. The council had